Welcome to Truth by Billie Beene Flash Update. Today's date, March 3rd, 2025. Time in Texas, about 1 p.m. Some of the things we'll cover. President Trump seeks peace. The EU, Europe, stabs the U.S. in the back. And the U.S. military to the U.S. border. So let's get started. We have breaking news. Right now in the White House, President Trump is having a meeting with his aides to discuss how to stop all aid to Ukraine, all U.S. military aid. And we know that Ukraine relies upon U.S. satellites, U.S. intel, U.S. AI to control its drones and so forth, and for intel. In addition to direct U.S. money to Ukraine, which has been cut off, and in addition to weapons, which we understand has also been cut off. This past week, the U.S. House put forth President Trump's budget bill. It's in the Senate now and includes no money and no weapons for Ukraine. So this meeting today in the White House is to discuss the finer details of withdrawing all U.S. military aid to Ukraine. It's believed that once this is put in place, Ukraine on the battlefield will collapse within days. But President Trump pursues peace. Now, many of us are familiar with the catastrophic public relations disaster meeting in the White House Friday. Zelensky, President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance. What many do not know is that during the course of that display by Zelensky, is that Zelensky actually called our Vice President, J.D. Vance, the B word. You know, that rhymes with the word witch. He spoke to J.D. Vance, calling him this derogatory term during the meeting under his breath in the Ukraine language. But it could be heard across the room and by everyone present, and I'm totally confident that after the meeting, this term was accurately translated to President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. But when Zelensky called our Vice President J.D. Vance the B word, across the room, his support team from Ukraine, in particular one foreign minister woman, put her face in her hands because she knew disaster was in place for this meeting. Now, recently we heard about in Chile an electricity outage for 90% of Chile. They were able to restore, within 24 hours, 90% of the outage. But information is coming forth from multiple sources, including Hal Turner's. It's believed these unexpected outages are widespread. We're seeing, like in Cuba, we saw that recently. Now in Chile, has to do with the sun and the position of the land mass to the sun. We are seeing, and in this area, Cuba, Venezuela, Chile, we would see the effect of the South Atlantic anomaly, where there's a dip in the electromagnetic shield over the Earth, letting in more radiation from the sun, and we do have increased radiation from the sun. So these national sudden occurrences of electrical outages when the weather is good could indeed be tied to the sun. So that's going on. And in Texas, beginning tonight, Monday night through Tuesday, expect in northeast Texas, so about in this area of Texas, we could have thunderstorms, some small hail. So that's going on. So now let's get to, I have a Patriot subscriber. Yeah, recently in my last video I was putting out, we are seeing communism rise in Europe. We're seeing it rise in the UK, where they have put laws against freedom of speech, freedom of religion. We're seeing it rise in, I believe, those similar laws against speech and religion are also taking place in France. We're seeing communism raise its head in Romania. That's just done against the Constitution alignment for elections. And the recent election, the deep state communist in charge of the government of Romania said, no, this election doesn't count. Now they've arrested Georgescu, who won the election by the people, and put him in jail. We see communism full stop on view in Romania. We also see communism on view in South Korea. Recently, we had heard about South Korea, the president declaring martial law, then being arrested. It turns out that the CCP has infiltrated South Korea and put in place a communist government and has now arrested the president of South Korea. Now, let's not forget that there are many U.S. military bases on South Korea. We see communism, the CCP, directly coming against the U.S. military. It's not kinetic yet, but we see it positioning in South Korea. So that's going on. And I have this from a Patriot subscriber. Communism's first move is to take down religion. And we see in the UK an actual law put against people praying silently in their homes. And we have this. It's perceived that Russia has become more of a Christian nation. This is from my Patriot subscriber, who says that Rick Renner has 200 churches in Russia. Rick Renner is a U.S. evangelist, an American evangelist. And we have this, that in March of 2022, a Russian general said, Russia is not leaving Ukraine until all of the children are rescued. That would be from the deep state underground bunkers and biolabs inside Ukraine, where there are many kidnapped children. So that's going on. I have a Patriot subscriber talking about peacekeeping in Ukraine Yes, Europe is putting forth, we're going to put peacekeeping troops in Ukraine, which Russia will never accept. And my Patriot subscriber believes this is a move by Europe to bring about an FF to draw in NATO. Well, I got news for Europe. The U.S. and the American people are drawing away from Ukraine. And we have this. Yes, and recently we heard Pam Bondi, President Trump's AG of the Attorney General of the DOJ, talking about the Epstein files. Then Pam Bondi became aware that there was extra information and files she did not have that was being withheld from her by the FBI in Manhattan near New York City, but also the FBI in Los Angeles. So she's securing additional files. And we have this going on. Now, the U.S. military over the weekend has put near the border striker groups along with armored vehicles equipped with machine guns. And this striker group are combat troops. And we say to President Trump, bring it. So we see the U.S. pursuing peace. And that recent dust-up with Zelensky Friday in the White House, when the Zelensky and his entourage were kicked out of the White House before they even had lunch. President Trump gave the food that would have gone for their lunch to the people working in the White House kitchen. Take it home. It's yours. These people are kicked out. They're not going to have lunch at the White House. But we see also after that, so that was Friday, then Europe having emergency meetings, primarily in London. And Keir Starmer, now let's review. I want this to be clearly understood. It was Ukraine who brought up the minerals deal with the U.S. To repay the U.S. for the $350 billion given by the JB show to Ukraine and getting nothing back for the U.S. But it turns out that Keir Starmer, the leader of the UK, had signed a secret deal with Zelensky for the UK to take 100% of anything valuable in Ukraine. Minerals, oil and gas, port income, and so on. 100% to go to UK. And this was signed with Zelensky and UK's leader, Keir Starmer, January 16. 4 days before President Trump was inaugurated. So we see Europe has been lying to the U.S. and continues to lie to the U.S. and to the world. UK is already, from a legal standpoint, as long as there is a Ukraine, has possession and ownership of all minerals and oil and gas and so on, not the U.S. This latest ploy by Ukraine and Europe for this mineral deals to be signed between Zelensky and President Trump was just to sucker the U.S. in to continue to provide U.S. military aid. Now, the majority of the American people are awake, and President Trump was elected by the American people because he said he would pursue peace, which is what the American people want. No more money and no more U.S. military to help Ukraine. And Elon Musk came out on X this weekend saying that the U.S. should withdraw from both NATO and the UN. Well, the majority of American people during this past year that I've been reporting on also agree with this. And now we see moves by the U.S. over the weekend to withdraw from NATO, to withdraw 20,000 U.S. military from Europe, and to stop all money and weapons and intelligence support, and also very likely cut off Starlink's satellite support of Ukraine. So that's going on. And the American people support President Trump in seeking peace. And President Trump's #1 goal now, based on the pictures of dying and dead soldiers he has seen, of Ukraine soldiers and Russian soldiers, he just wants immediately a ceasefire to stop the killing. And then we can work out the peace details. I believe that God also sees it this way. Stop the killing. So this concludes my flash. I love you, and I'll see you soon.